Hey everyone, welcome to the third episode of our little show. Today we have something really special for you. We're going to be talking about that balancing act of HR managers where they're partnering with the business to improve outcomes. We're joined by the amazing Olga Rankin. So if you don't know Olga, look her up. She's on LinkedIn, but she brings a wealth of experience. So beginning her career in the late 90s. Sorry, Olga, maybe shouldn't have mentioned
It's
that.
all right.
As a resource at Interpro, and then moving into senior resource role with Elon. And then by the early 2000s, I think you were at Randstad.
Yep.
Following that, you worked at Hyro as a senior recruiter, and then at InterSystems, moving around then to Ashdown for a short stint.
Yep.
But you couldn't get enough of Randstad. You went back there as an executive manager. And I think in that role, you were telling me you were responsible for coaching, mentoring recruiters to ensure greater success.
A lot of coaching and mentoring and sharing the lessons that I'd learned with a growing team. So that was really exciting.
Okay, cool. We're going to unpack all this a little bit more in a moment. And then you worked for Cloud Solutions as the manager of people and culture. So you went in-house out of the dark side or into the dark side. I'm not really sure, depending on which side of the fence you're on. And then you moved into an employee experience director role at Simplus, where you're focused on end-to-end employee lifecycle. So really shifting out of that sort of long way from the resource role, right?
Yeah.
You then transitioned over to Novan, where you held various roles culminating as a director for customer experience and success. And then mid last year, you took your current role with Kinetico, where you're the group manager for people and culture, which is where I've met you. And there you're responsible for the talent strategy across three brands, Arinco, Sevo, and D6 Consulting.
Yep.
And I think that's where we really want to unpack today, how you manage that talent acquisition team, shape policies that foster a positive employee experience and really try to drive outcomes. Probably more important to the career that I just outlaid, you're a wife, a mum to two wonderful teenage girls. You're super passionate about your family. You drink Joe in the morning and you drink other stuff in the afternoon.
Well, who's to say? You can't see through this cup.
Yeah, that could be a dirty martini in there right now, right? Well, welcome, Olga. We're stoked to have you on the show.
Thanks.
Today we're going to unpack what it's like to partner with the business to drive better outcomes. And I guess we want to sort of talk about, from hiring managers. I was recently at an event and a lot of the HR leaders and TA leaders were saying that hiring managers is the bane of their existence. It's one of the hardest parts of recruitment, and it's where their systems quite often fall down or it's a weak link. So I guess wanted to get your experience on how do you build trust? How do you get those goals, ensure that the goals are shared, that the hiring manager knows their part to play in securing the best talent. So I guess let's start with where you sit in the role in your business at the moment.
Okay.
What your role is and how do you typically partner?
So I am really fortunate. This is the second time I've worked with this particular leadership team. I worked with this leadership team at Cloud, and now I've rejoined this leadership team at Kinetico. And Kinetico has three professional services brands, which is Arinco, Sevo, and D6. They all focus in different technology areas. And what I particularly do in this role is I work as a business partner with all of those business leads and practice leads, but I also help set the strategy for both our talent acquisition, but also our culture and how to manage that culture in three different brands who have their own personality and their own ideologies, but making sure that process is consistent across the brands, but culture is unique across the brands. So it's tricky. It's a fine line and it's a balancing act, but I really like it. It's lots of fun.
And do you find that those different brands are quite defensive of their culture?
They're I wouldn't say defensive, I'd say protective.
Protective?
They're protective of their cultures. They like the persona that their brand has and very passionate about keeping their specific culture. So some things we do at a group level, at a Kinetico level, and a lot of our learning we do at a group level. But we do a lot of other things individually at our brand level. And one of the things we particularly do at a brand level is that talent acquisition, and making sure that we have the ability to keep a very robust process, making sure that we're getting quality talent, but also doing that in a way that works for that particular business.
And so do you have TA people or yourself? How many people are there in the TA team?
At the moment, I have 6 TAs actively working, one on maternity leave.
Yep.
And we are assigned to an individual brand where those TAs provide not just talent acquisition skills, but they are the people and culture specialist in that area. So they look after growing the team, but then nurturing that team, maintaining them from an employee experience and culture perspective.
And is the team hybrid or work from home, work from the office? How does that work?
Look, we work in professional services, so our consultants join us and then they're often out at customer site pretty soon afterwards. And sometimes they are there with a small team, but that means they only know a small number of people. So my team, the people and culture team, are in the office more often than not, normally between 3 and 4 days a week, because we are like the beacons when those people come in. They don't necessarily know everybody in the organisation, but they do know the person who recruited them, brought them in, rings them regularly. So I like the team to be in. Of course, that's with flexibility because, I've got 2 teenagers. Sometimes I need to go to school for a meeting or take somebody to a doctor's appointment. You need to be able to be flexible. I think one of the gifts COVID gave us was the ability to gain the trust of our businesses to work from home, and then also for us to be able to be flexible. My team don't need to ask permission if they're working from home.
Yeah.
They know the preference is to be in the office, but if they're working from home, it's for a good reason. So it doesn't really bother me.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
And how do they then go about building or fostering great relationships with hiring managers?
So with hiring managers, my belief is that internal HR, people and culture team are service providers to the hiring managers. So we need to trust ourselves as experts in what we do, and we need to project ourselves in that way. But we also need to remember that the hiring managers are our customer and we need to work out which way they buy.
Yep.
And in order to do that, I think it takes a little bit of effort to work out, what their currency is. What are they like? Are they really busy? Do they like to go for a walk? Are they the guy that in the morning comes in early and you find him pottering around the kitchen? Are they the person that loves to go for a walk at lunchtime, and so you just start joining them? Because once you start to know your hiring managers and you're building a level of not necessarily trust, you're building a relationship, then you're able to provide a better service because you get to know them and understand them a little bit. But some people aren't easy to do that with.
Of course.
Some people don't want that.
Do you find when new hiring managers come in, so they're external hire, perhaps not come through the ranks, do they have an instant trust with the HR team or the P&C team, or is that something that is an individual base, or do you need to work on that?
They might have it with the person who recruited them into the team, but they won't necessarily have it with everybody in the team. So we do have to work on it, and we explain very clearly on how we do the process. So I think the clarity around our process is one of the ways that we build trust, because it's a repeatable process and people don't feel like they don't know what's going on. And I think that that's really super useful, because when people feel like it's predictable what's going to happen next, they feel more comfortable, in my experience. It's not haphazard at all. And that helps to build trust because the people know what's going to happen next and the process up to that point. The people, our hiring managers who make decisions, the final decision, so we have a structured 3 interview process. And we train on that interview process regularly. So we train once a quarter on interviewing.
As a group or just one-on-one?
As a group. And
Yep.
then if people want further training one-on-one, it's opt-in to make an appointment and have further training. But as a group, we give training every quarter, and that training really looks at the different challenges hiring managers have had during that quarter. So sometimes it's that our pool of interviewers has changed, so we need to educate them. Sometimes it's that we haven't been successful in finding the right type of people, and we need to re-educate our team on what's in the market at the moment, what they need to be flexible on, how they give us feedback, things like that. So we spend a lot of time making sure that everyone's clear. And I think that is really key to make a difficult or challenging hiring process a bit easier. The clarity is really important.
Is that something that you've put in place at Kinetico, or is it something that you've developed over, your career at other roles?
I would say I've done it before, but not in such a structured way. It's much more structured in this environment, much more. We have a lot of senior management buy-in, which is super helpful.
Because How did you achieve that?
Well, I think I was really lucky because I have worked with this team before.
Sure.
But I am really clear on the reason why, what the benefit is for that team doing something that I want them to do. So I'm very comfortable in sharing with the team, here's the reason why I think this is a good idea. My recommendation is that we do this. If we don't do this, these are some of the pitfalls that I see, but you're my customer, it's up to you. So I think part of it is not saying this is how we're going to do it. You must follow these rules, because again, I remind my team regularly and myself regularly, this is my customer. I need to work out how my customer buys.
Yeah.
So I'm really fortunate that they are very helpful in listening and implementing new ideas. But it's also because we explain, here's the benefit to you. This will speed things up. This will make it better.
And sorry, I just want to unpick this a little bit. Want to go off on another tangent in a second, but how much time each quarter would that involve? Would that be like 15 minutes, an hour, half
the training?
a day? Yeah.
No, the training, I am a very big believer in what I call, and what we have across our business, we have Kinetico College, and Kinetico College has chunky bite-sized sessions. So those sessions are 45 minutes of really intense information download, and then 15 minutes of conversation following that. And then people are invited, if they want more information or they want one-on-one training, to book in one-on-one training with the team. So we disseminate that information regularly. We also have areas where they can go and read the process step by step. So we make sure that there's enough information for people that need to learn in different ways as well. And we make videos and we share difficult conversations and things like that. So we really try to have a library of information people can access, but we have those chunky sessions where people can really get involved. And we also, in those sessions, don't just have people in culture presenting. We always involve the business in those sessions. So somebody in the business who's a great interviewer will work in those interviewing sessions. If we're having problems with our interviewing managers, we get a forum of the managers together and say, okay, what's the problem? How can we work better with you? So again, it's always addressing our hiring managers as our customers. And I like doing that, addressing them as our customers.
Do you ever, so educating the hiring managers, do you ever educate the candidate on what the process is, or how do you do that?
Absolutely. The candidate. So when people in culture identify a candidate, and we decide that they're the right person to go through the interview process, we let them know what that's going to look like. You're going to have a technical interview first with 2 of our consultants, and then your final interview will be with our CEO and a practice lead, or our practice lead and a managing consultant, whatever it might be. And we explain that those sessions can last 30 to 40 minutes, but we always book them for an hour in case they go over. And we make sure that the person understands this is going to be a real technical interview. It's conversational, but they want real examples from your life. So we make sure that our candidates are comfortable and understanding what's going to be expected of them. That actually helps the process. We make sure the other thing we do, which is probably the most important thing, we make sure that the candidate knows what job they're applying for and what job they're being interviewed for.
Isn't that
Because
obvious?
you think it's obvious, but sometimes we interview for capability. So in our mind, we might talk to someone and say, oh, yes, we think that they are a lead consultant, and we need to explain you're going to be interviewed by these people with the idea that you may be a lead consultant. We also need to make sure that the technical interviewers know what role we're asking them to interview for. So there's no point giving them somebody who's a mid-level consultant and then thinking they're interviewing for a lead and then getting frustrated and thinking they're wasting their time. So we use a lot of clarity to make sure everybody knows what they're doing, and that helps in building that level of trust. Because what I always forget is that interviewing people is my life. This is what I do all day. It is not what my interviewers do all day. My hiring managers have to stop what they're doing to interview. It's an extra. So we need to be mindful of that. And we need to make sure we're not wasting anybody's time.
Yeah.
And I think that's really key to building that level of trust, to showing the respect for the time.
Yeah, absolutely. When it comes back to, so just looping back to hiring managers themselves, what's one of the biggest, I mean, you seem like you've got a fairly clear, transparent process, and I'm sure that's evolving over time. And in those sessions, perhaps they give you feedback that, hey, it's also you could help.
We do tweak things up a lot.
Yeah,
when things aren't working, we make the change and put it into place straight away.
Yep. Well, what's one of the biggest challenges you face, I guess, when working with hiring managers, whether it's at Kinetico or in previous roles? And
in any role I've ever found, it's time. So sometimes speed is of the essence. And I've worked in professional services organisations for the last 13 years. So when speed is of the essence, that's great, except my hiring manager may be a billable consultant on customer site, and the customer will always come first. So, they may be doing a full week and then we're asking them to find time to do interviews. And our hiring managers, as they should, want to prepare for the interview, have read the CV properly, maybe have come back with questions that they might have asked and want some further clarity on. So it is always about time.
Yeah. And how do you navigate that?
Well, I'm pretty honest with them. I'm like, you've told me that this role is important to you, or you've asked us to identify this role for you, a person to do this role. We now need you to give us your time. So if we know somebody is super busy, like we've got a lot of our practice leads are very, very busy, at the beginning of a recruitment exercise for them, we just placeholder their time.
Yeah, okay.
Because you can cancel a placeholder. You can't always get the time, right?
Yeah.
So placeholding their time, or saying to them, I want you to give me a time in your week that you are happy to miss whatever meetings already booked in there. And they'll do that because they recognise, yes, it is important for me to interview. I have to make time for it because it will help me in the long run, even if it hurts me for the hour that I have to take off to do it.
Yeah, definitely. If there's going to be an impact, it's worth taking for sure.
Yep.
And sorry, I was just rephrasing a sentence there. But when you're trying to balance being the expert in hiring, so you obviously have an extensive career in it. How do you sort of balance being the expert without becoming kind of the process police?
Well, anyone who knows me will tell you that I understand that rules are important. I understand that process is important, but it can stop you doing things. So you need to be a tiny little bit flexible on those things. You don't want to be flexible on your police check, but you can be flexible if you run it, at this part of the process or that part of the process for whatever reason. There's
Yeah.
things that you can bend and flex rules for. And I think one of the things is really understanding what is needed and understanding when a process is broken, but
Yeah.
also explaining why a process is important. So I will explain if someone doesn't seem to be valuing a process, I'll explain, hey, this is important because of this reason. If you don't want us to do that, that's okay, but I need you to sign off on the fact that that won't happen.
Yeah.
And then, it's up to them. Our processes save our consultants' time, our interviewing
Yeah.
managers' time. And I think it's good that they're there because it does safeguard you. I mean, a bad hire is way worse than no hire.
And if I was a new hiring manager coming into the organisation,
Mm-hmm.
would there be some upfront training for me, or would the recruiter sort of, once I've been accepted into the organisation, would the recruiter say, "Hey, that process that you just went through is our standard process that we're going through,
So
for all our
yes,
hires"?
but
Yeah.
we have, like I said, we've got our processes documented for people
Yeah.
who like documentation.
Yeah.
I
Perfect.
don't love documentation, but it's processed out there because there's other people that do. So we can point them to where the processes are so that they can follow them. Again, there's the training every quarter,
Mm-hmm.
but they can also have one-on-one sessions with the TAs. And normally they'll work with the same TA because our TAs are state-based as well as brand-based. So they're used
Okay.
to working together. They know each other and we
Yep.
build on those relationships.
Okay. Awesome.
Mm.
Um, if someone watching is struggling with a sort of a tricky hiring manager, and it sounds like you don't have this problem. No, I'm
I
sure we all
do.
do.
I do
Humans are
have that
humans,
problem.
right?
They are.
Humans
I've
are.
had tricky hiring managers.
What's one thing you'd recommend doing differently, or sort of setting the ground rules to try and set that up for a better relationship?
I would always recommend taking your hiring manager out of the situation that they're in, out of the environment that they're in. So go downstairs, grab a coffee, and just say, look, I'm really trying to solve your problem for you, which is you need a person in your team, but I seem to be irritating you by doing that. What can we do differently? So it's
Mm.
really about understanding what the problem is. Why are we not being successful in finding someone? And what it might be. And the person, the hiring manager might be, well, I don't understand why you just can't find someone. And then we have to sit down and say, okay, we've mapped the market. There are 77 people in Sydney that do what you do or
Mm.
what you want them to do. Of those 77 people, 40% of them are contractors and you don't want a contractor. Of the ones that are left, I don't know, you want
Yeah. Yeah.
someone with pink spots and nobody has pink spots. So you need to change something. So it's all about presenting people with information. I think that transparency is key, but also communicating what the challenges are is really important. Being able to say, hey, listen, we're really struggling over here because we don't have all the answers and we're dealing with people. People change their minds, people are
Yeah.
affected by the market. All of a sudden they realize that their skill set is a valuable skill set and their price goes from, 2 to 4 in 2 seconds. So
Yeah.
we need to, communicate those things. But I
Yeah.
do think there are just some people who are difficult people, and what you can't do is you can't change them. What you can do is you can change the way you deal with them. So you might find sometimes it's a matter of changing the TA that's working with an individual.
Mm-hmm.
That can sometimes help. You might find that you just need to hope it finishes really quickly so you don't have to work with them. But most of the time, again, it's just understanding them, taking the time to understand and being respectful that, hey, you are not the main thing in their job. Their job is their job. Interviewing is
Yeah.
on top of it.
Yeah. Cool. I've taken some a lot of notes here, but I think there's three things that you kind of came back to a couple of times that's really resonated with me, and that's kind of treat the relationship like a customer or a service relationship.
Yep.
The internal stakeholders are your customer, and I think if you frame it that way, you definitely have a different view on your responsibility in that role.
Yep.
You mentioned this word, I don't know, maybe 20 times, and that's transparency.
Yep.
So transparency of process, transparency of communication, transparency with the stakeholders, clarity of the process, so having it really clearly mapped out for all stakeholders, all parties to understand their role.
Including the person coming into the business.
Including the candidate, so that the hiring manager, the TA team, and the candidate, so everyone knows their role to play, and everyone's not going to be surprised when they get to the next stage, and this is the role that you're playing here.
Yep.
And then I don't know if you mentioned this word, but it seems like you are an elite communicator. You said something just a moment ago where you said, I'd take them for a coffee and I'd just say, hey, I'm annoying you. And I could actually just hear my wife's voice just going, oh, I know that's how she operates with me. And it gets me every time. So I think, that sort of transparency, customer relationship and communication is.
I would hope that most people working in people and culture like people. It doesn't mean they all do, but I would hope most of them like people. Most talent acquisition people like people. They want to talk to them. They want to know about them. That doesn't mean that our stakeholders are like that. And I work in technology, and some of my stakeholders are less people than I am.
Sure.
But what it does mean is, because I am a people person, I would hope that I have a little bit more empathy and insight into how people communicate. And I read a lot about this stuff because I want to make sure that I'm staying on top of different things and different ideas that are happening. But I think always
what's
deflecting the problem is best.
Awesome, Olga. Hey, thank you so much for joining us. It's been really good. I've taken away a lot from it, and hopefully our listeners have as well. So, really appreciate your time today.
Well, thank you. And if anyone wants to talk further, they can reach me on LinkedIn.
Cool. We'll drop your thing in the bottom